Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Monday, the 27th of Safar 1446, 2nd of September 2024. Our Hazrat Wala is saying that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned that on one occasion Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, "O my Rabb, tell me some kalima by means of which I can remember you, by means of which I can call out to you, and by means of which I can make dua to you." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, "La ilaha illallah." Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wassalam said that this kalima, all your servants say it. And what speciality will they be there for me in it? Allah Ta'ala then says, this kalima is such that if you have to take the 7 earths and the 7 heavens and put it on one pan of the scale and put the kalima on the other pan of the scale, then the kalima will outweigh the 7 heavens and the 7 earths. Recite this kalima over and over again. This was the wazifa of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. It is the wazifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as well. People go to the buzruks and then they say, "Give us some type of wazifa." Is this wazifa not of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? It is. And is it not sufficient for us? And we should recite this kalima such that it becomes engraved on our hearts. You know the problem? Asani se mil gaya, isliye qadar nahi. We've got this kalima very easy, therefore there is no appreciation. Allah Ta'ala give us yaqeen. Look at what we're reading. Look at these narrations. Who even reads? Sayyidina Shaddad ibn Aus radiyallahu ta'ala an relates that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was at the residence of one of the Sahabis, and then he inquired that, "Is there anyone else here? Is there some ghair? Is there some others here as well?" The Sahabi replied that no. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Close the door and lift your hands and say, La ilaha illallah." Thereafter, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam also lifted his Mubarak and blessed hands, and thereafter whoever was present there from the Sahaba also lifted their hands and said, La ilaha illallah. Thereafter Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam then went on to say that you can put your hands down, and I have glad tidings for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven you. I have been commissioned with this kalima. I have been instructed with this kalima, and entry into Jannah has also been confined with this kalima. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned that remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abundantly, so much that people would even go on to say that perhaps you are gone mad. and the vast difference between one who carries out the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one who does not is the difference or the example of the living and the dead. Some at the time of death when instructed to read the kalima, they were unable to read the kalima, and they were still in that of how much is this particular cloth per meter and how much is that one per meter. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that when some people gather in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the angels enshroud them, and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala engulfs them, and sukoon, peace and itminan descends upon them. Now Allah Ta'ala give us yaqeen and conviction in all of this. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb instructed me, and that was my habit as well, that I would sit until the Ishraq Salat and then read Ishraq Salat. On one occasion we were in Bombay and Hazrat was leaving to go somewhere, so I also came out to greet. So when I came out and he seen me, he scolded me, reprimanded me, saying that, why are you here? You're supposed to be in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah ta'ala stipulated Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb for us. So, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also the greatest. Sometimes so many hours goes on and we are just involved in useless and futile talks. Sabse bari daulat waqt hai. The greatest wealth is that of time. Hazrat Gangohi used to sit, but when it was the time of Ishraq, immediately he would stand and then perform his Ishraq Salat. Allah Ta'ala apne zikr se munasabat paida farma de, uns paida farma de. Allah Ta'ala create affinity for us in His zikr and His remembrance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us acquainted to the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His zikr. Allah Ta'ala, Allah Jalla Shanuhu, His zikr is actually a means of the purity and the cleansing of the heart. And it is a means of spiritual clarity. And the dhikr lisani, the zikr of the tongue, leads and makes a person reach the status of the dhikr qalbi. And the zikr qalbi is a means of a person's soul enjoying complete and total peace. Allah Ta'ala Himself has mentioned, Allah bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Behold, it is with the remembrance of Allah that hearts find peace. Bila shubha, zikr ilahi tamaniyat qalb ka ba'is hai. Zikr ki badaulat Hazrat Haq se uns और खल्क़ खुदा से बुअद पैदा होता है. By means of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it creates affinity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it distances a person from the makhluk, or khalq se rabta wa wasta, ruju ilallah में रुकावट पैदा करता है. And this year, with being with the makhluk all the time, actually is an obstacle for a person in him turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. और इंसान खलवत नशीनी की तौफीक से mahroom रहता है. And man and insan becomes deprived of sitting in solitude. You know, once I was with Maulana Mohammad Ahmad Saheb, maybe there were maybe one or two people there. And at that time a phone came, and what was it? Hazrath was given the khabar that certain person who had ta'alluq with him had passed away in such an amazing manner, in such a beautiful and becoming way. So Hazrat after that looked at me and he said, Maulana, I wish that all those people that have ta'alluq with me have a maut in such a manner. Thereafter Hazrat Wala is saying that Allah Ta'ala give me also the tawfiq and the hidayat of having fikr. Allah mujhe bhi apne zikr o fikr mein rakhe. And Allah gives me the tawfiq and the hidayat of being in His zikr and having fikr for my islah in such a way that maut comes to us in that manner. Allah Ta'ala bless us with His zikr and fikr and bless us with His muhabbat. Allah Ta'ala remove all the ailments and maladies from the heart. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم اغفر لي ذنبي ووسع لي في داري وبارك لي في رزقي ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.